a majority of people have predatorial energies.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, and they're
It's
very
true.
good at hiding that. Because they're not consciously doing it, they're subconsciously doing that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the ego is so hungry, right? I mean, and it's going to be, unless you're working closely with your ego and have developed that witness, it does seem to me that, yeah, you're right. There would be a subtle predation going on. Yeah, I mean, I can see that in myself when I'm being unconscious. I can see how there's this pull. Like something that was fascinating for me from our last session that we did, our one-on-one session, is I was listening to it and my voice, I went into this very young voice and I kept thinking, what is that about? Where is that coming from? And I realized that I was working through this very young aspect of myself was showing up in relationship with you that was around needing mirroring, that like was a starved aspect of myself when I was very young that wanted mirroring. And it was just fascinating to watch it. But in some very subtle sense, that can almost feel a little bit like a predation because it's got an energetic hook. At least it's attempting to put that hook. But you're immune to that hook, I think, if that makes sense.
Well, I'm only immune if I'm aware.
Right. Yeah.
There have been others I have been working with who I knew that they were predators. And sometimes I let them stick around for a while to see if they transition.
Right.
And that's quite challenging because they try to pull you into their unconscious energy.
Yeah.
And but often I've made it a duty, and I don't know if I will continue to do this. In the practice of psychotherapy, I have had people who had predatorial tendencies, and I assisted them getting out of those predatorial tendencies.
Right.
But I only have such a space for patience because at some point when I realize it's an energy drain on me,
yes,
then I know that their predatorial behavior isn't changing. It's just very subtle.
Yes.
I get very suspicious if someone gives me a lot of compliments, for example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because this is a way of trying to secure an energy source.
Yeah, it's a transaction. It's a very subtle transaction, isn't it?
And that is why I told you last time when your Buddhist teacher told you, "Oh, you have never stopped loving me."
Yeah.
That raised an alarm signal in me. I'm going to be very clear about that because if he is dependent on being loved, by the devotees, so to speak, then there is something in him that isn't fully clear.
Yes.
Yeah, because when there is a need to be loved in any way, in that moment we're disconnected from the divine.
Yeah.
There's some blind spot.
Yes.
Yeah, because the love of God is total. If it's not total for you right now, it's because you have erected some sort of barrier.
Yes.
The barrier is being compensated to something in the external world.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I see that. I completely see that. And it felt so off. It did. It just felt so off. And so, of course, then I did some mental gymnastics around it and like, okay, well, wait a minute. Maybe he has a guru relationship with me and there's this guru yoga idea and there's sort of unbridled devotion and maybe he was testing that. So I started going into mental gymnastics to try and justify it, which is a lack of discernment in a sense because I at that moment, I really wasn't wanting to sit with my own discomfort with that exchange. That's interesting.
Well, you are beginning to enter a dimension of discernment that previously didn't seem so necessary. So in my own process, before my psychic abilities started developing, I met other people with psychic abilities.
Yeah.
At that time, a part of me painted a more beautiful picture of them because they had something that I thought I didn't have. There was a woman in the US, a medium who I got in contact with. It was the first channeler that I actually knew personally.
Yeah.
She assisted me in the beginning quite a lot. But then there came those moments where she had this uncontrolled anger. It just go off on people. So there was some shadow work that she had to do.
Yeah.
And for me, this was a little bit of a disillusionment because, and this is something that I remember from being a yogi in the past, that ability does not always equal wisdom. You will have people who have some degree of psychic ability, and when you don't have activated your own abilities, there is a tendency of idealization because, they are a source of wisdom for me. They're a source of energy for me.
Yeah.
And then there is the tendency, when there is some sort of conflict in the relationship, to internalize first.
Right.
So you're going inside you, it's like, what's wrong with me?
Right.
Like, why can't I adjust to X? Why can't I adjust to Y?
Right.
But then you figure out, they are immature in that particular area.
Yes.
And that's very disillusioning because you will feel thrown back onto your own discernment. So the pocket of comfort is dying off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is why I will teach completely differently. There's a reason for this. One of the people who I wanted to create this temple with, he said, Julian, shouldn't we have structured meditation classes? And I said, yes, but only half. And the other half is people going into nature by themselves in solitude and meditating under a tree for half a day.
Yeah.
Because if they don't do this, they never develop the inner strength.
Right.
Or the capability to go at it on their own without being dependent on community.
Right.
This is such a big issue in so many ashrams. The constant dependency on the guru.
Yes.
It's an issue. It's because some of the teachers feed off that dependency. They feed off that attention. And this is when they build spiritual ego.
Yeah.
So for the teacher, it's challenging to stay conscious, and for the student also.
Yes.
And that's why, and I'm sometimes a little bit compulsive about that, so I need to be very careful. It's because I have so much memory.
Yes.
About what it's like to teach monks and so on. This is sometimes not applicable to the average practitioner. It's not.
Right.
So I need to be very careful because I might be too strict. So my logic would be this, to have a core group that focuses on spiritual practice, and then have retreats for visitors who are not full-timers.
Yes.
And they can be in a different energy.
Yes.
So, you see, all these things, they will need to be figured out, yes? And it's an adventure. I will also need to rely on counsel a lot.
Yeah.
But on spirit counsel.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But what a lovely adventure. I mean, what an incredible opportunity to put this kind of thing into this world, to do this kind of service in this world. I think it sounds pretty cool.
That is.
Nice.
So discernment is the key here, right?
Yeah, it is, and it's tricky.
Discernment is the whole spiritual game.
It's a freaking house of mirrors. Like you were talking about how you run into somebody with psychic ability and you think that they're more advanced than they are. And there's almost a sense of, what is it, Robert Johnson? Have you read much Robert Johnson? He's a Jungian psychoanalyst. And he would talk about how we project our inner gold onto others as well. We don't just project our shadow. We also project our incredible parts onto them. And we assume they have these beautiful things that we have, and we're not acknowledging inside of ourselves. So there's like that type of projection going on, I can imagine. I don't know.
But it is also a shadow projection. Because
you're
externalizing something that internally exists.
That's right.
So in a way, you're saying it's not in me.
Right. So shadow doesn't have to be bad. Shadow could be good stuff.
What is within the shadow, what is hidden within the shadow, is treasure.
Yes.
But before you recognize it, it is the shadow. Once you recognize it, it ceases to be the shadow.
Yes.
As long as it is shadow, it will do things.
Yes.
That you're not conscious of that it is doing those things.
It'll act out. Yep.
Yeah, without you knowing it.
Yeah.
And then it will act out in a dysfunctional way.
Yes.
I give you an example. This is pretty straightforward. Let's imagine you're in a relationship and that relationship is quite oppressive, and now you're getting angry all the time.
Right.
And then your spiritual ego is saying, oh, I shouldn't be angry, I'm a spiritual practitioner. Later you find out it's your shadow that actually represents freedom, and since you didn't want to acknowledge freedom, it had to come out in a dysfunctional way.
Ah, that's beautiful. I can see that. Yeah,
so
well,
the value here is freedom, but when freedom is disowned, it turns into anger.
Yeah. Yep, I see that.
All right?
Yep.
So a guru can only be a guru if a guru can empty his mind completely.
Yeah.
Because if there's any type of friction in the consciousness of the guru, what will happen is that the guru will create attachment, so he's not a guru.
Right.
And the difficulty is with awakening humanity. Now, a lot of people get their abilities back. Mm-hmm. People becoming telepathic more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, it's sometimes fun. Like, I can think of an image and my wife sees it. So I'm saying, so what image am I sending you right now? It's very fun.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of joy in there. But at the same time, now so many people are now just begin to rediscover their abilities.
Right.
So they're looking for guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's overwhelming them.
Yeah.
And naturally, they go for those who already have abilities, but they are mystics of various different levels of experience.
Yes.
And it's very easy, and I see this all the time, that people put the label of enlightenment on everyone. So-and-so is enlightened, so-and-so is enlightened. So it's like, how do you know?
Yeah. I have no idea how to know. I mean, I don't have that level of discernment, I don't think. I don't know. How do you know? You look at the results of their action, right? You look at the results of their lives. Is that how you look at the results? Have to speak to the source of those actions.
Well, of course, what they do will be mirrored. And yet you will find great teachers who have blind spots.
Yeah.
For example, as an idea, I have listened to Sadhguru for years.
Mm-hmm.
Think he's a great teacher.
Yeah.
And then there was a video about that where he said, if you want to be a part of society, you need to get vaccinated.
Okay.
So he has a blind spot.
Yeah.
There's something he didn't detect.
Yeah.
So it's important that this is a humbling experience, because it will let you know that even beings of a very high level of discernment might sometimes be caught up in things and not detect certain aspects of reality.
Yeah.
Without going into much detail, I have an idea why he didn't detect it. So again, it's important not to speak about the past life of others, but let's say in another lifetime, he already was a guru, and he had tremendous success.
Mm-hmm.
But what he did was so revolutionary that the rest of mainstream society got agitated and basically led to the destruction of his ashram. So that type of experience, when it comes into the next lifetime, suddenly there is an attachment to being accepted by society. And it might sneak in that moment.
Yeah.
When, for example, the mass vaccination suddenly comes in. Because this is the one thing that is not allowed to be questioned in society.
Yeah. Yep.
And when you don't want your work to break down, and you have been too busy, and you're not seeing the signs or getting the warnings, then certain statements happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I could see that.
And I'm not judging, for the very simple reason, if I would be as busy as he is, and be surrounded by people all the time who constantly have questions,
yeah,
how could I make sure that my mind would be still and I would receive the psychic information when necessary, when there's so much noise around me?
Yeah.
So it's tremendously challenging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But then our mind will ask, what can we trust? If even great teachers can slip up,
right,
what can we trust? What is real? What is unreal?
I think, and that's where the development of going internally into the heart, into the discernment, and finding that quiet mind. In the end, that's what you've got to do, right? I mean, what else can you rely on in the end?
Well, that's the thing, yeah. The only thing that is reliable is your connection to the divine.
Right.
and this is what I will focus on when we start creating our own temple, is that I will emphasize that everybody needs to come into sovereignty.
Yeah.
And I will not replace their discernment for them.
Right.
First of all, it would burn me out very quickly.
Yeah.
To be straight up about that, because if I would take on that responsibility that is not mine, it would drain me energetically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the only way is to establish for everybody their own connection to the divine.
Right.
And then we need to understand that slip-ups will happen.
Right.
If we don't understand that slip-ups will happen, we will create shadows because we will be in denial.
Right. It'll be an addiction to perfection.
Yeah, perfection is a dangerous thing.
Right.
Like as a concept, it's a very dangerous thing. Because once you believe in perfection, or once you reach a certain level of spiritual practice, and once you create a belief, I have arrived,
right,
this is when discernment stops.
Yeah.
Because life is an ongoing, dynamic
evolution.
Yes, and even when I talk to spirit, things can change so rapidly. They would like make a plan for me with something, and then something energetically changed, and I get completely new advice to go in a very different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And this can happen within a week.
Yeah.
For the human mind, that's pretty challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, the human mind is constantly looking for steadiness.
Right, and it would be, yeah, that would be a challenge, because I can imagine that you'd start to question the truth, right? The veracity of it if it's changing like that.
Well, truth itself is not changing, but the application in your life, like what you're going to do,
right,
the logistics of it, the practical parts of it, who you're going to work with can change very quickly.
Because impermanence is operating all the time and conditions are arising and changing.
Exactly. And some people, when they're not conscious, the conditions, let's say their souls cannot break through the conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, in a past life, you could have met a mystical practitioner and you're supposed to work with them in this lifetime. You both have agreed to that. You've made a decision. We're going to meet again. We're going to build something. But now you meet them and they didn't have their spiritual awakening.
Right.
The plan's not going to work out.
That's interesting, but you could also imagine having a compulsion to still stay engaged with them from a karmic perspective.
All the time.
Yeah.
Just speak about twin flames to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can meet their twin flame in a tremendous unconscious state, and then they can't let go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no certainty. There is no certainty.
Yeah, release that. The desire for certainty and perfection.
So if you come into your own discernment, I've done my part correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that is why when people ask me constantly for advice, I start blowing them off at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Has good reasons. Same way someone asks me for advice all the time, but is not applying the advice. And
Right.
asks for more advice.
Right. Then they're just consuming.
Energy vampires.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be aware of that. So, challenging.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Well, I do have some questions. I have a question for you I'd like to explore for a few minutes. I don't want to take too much of your time.
But you can have some of my time if you want to. Yeah?
Thank you. Thank you.
Please don't be so concerned about that.
Okay. All right. That's true. That's up to you. Your time is your business.
Yes.
So the thing I'm working with right now is the idea of surrender and the concept of doing. And it's I did a whole bunch of shadow work this last week. I had help from a practitioner, and so much of it came out of my body, and it was an exercise in allowing grief to arise and express and release. And it was very much my ego wanted to jump in and do, right? It wanted to like push make this happen. It wanted to kind of force the issue. And I realized I have this real need for control around what's happening from a spiritual perspective. So I'm working with Vortex Healing. It's a lineage of healing. It's the lineage of Merlin. It's the lineage of magical transformation. And I've had tremendous awakening movements in this lineage. And this lineage talks about helping heal. And there's this idea that you channel this energy into another person if they're willing, if they want it. And it can make a difference. Now, I've received this sort of healing from this lineage, and it's quite powerful, but it feels like when I try and do something with this, it feels like I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't understand the concept of allowing channel. It's like there's nothing for the ego to do, and I'm starting to realize that. It's very confusing to me. Do you have any thoughts on this at all?
There's nothing for the ego to do, period.
So what does that even look like? I mean, I'm in a meditative space, I empty my mind, and I intend for an energy to run through me, and then I let go of outcome. I just stay in compassion, stay in love. It feels like there's a mechanical piece I'm missing.
All right. So the difficulty with intention is this, that any intention the mind could come up with comes from limiting beliefs. So if you set an intention, sometimes it would be very helpful to have a very open intention. So what do I mean by a very open intention? When you can start your day in the morning, by stating the intention, God, move me into enlightenment. But you're not saying how.
Right.
The moment you say how, you put a limitation on yourself. I want to only get into enlightenment through Buddhism without upsetting Rinpoche.
Right.
But maybe that's not going to work. Maybe you're supposed to upset him. Maybe you're supposed to leave there.
Yeah.
So when you're too specific, when you're caught up in detail, that's where the compulsiveness enters. It needs a generalized intention of tendency. What's the tendency supposed to be like?
A tendency towards health, or a tendency towards awakening, or...
Yes, but You don't specify the how.
Right.
Once you specify the how, you believe that your mind already knows, but it does not. Otherwise, you would be there.
Right.
So you need to be open for the mystery. It's an open inquiry.
Okay.
Right? But what happens is that when you try to channel some sort of energy, the ego believes it is losing dominion. So in that moment, it feels the soul's energy arising, and it tries to propose some sort of block.
Okay. In the form of a story, perhaps.
For example, like, we can't do this because.
Right.
Yeah, or this is not aligned with my practice.
Right. Yeah. I at one point I was working. I've been this past few weeks since we spoke about this idea. I will do body scans and I'll feel a particular energetic and I'll go into meditative space and I'll intend to put, I don't know, violet light right into this space, and I watch a rise in my mind like, what are you doing? You can't do this. You don't know how to do this. In the past, I would say, oh, you're right. I mean, I can't do this. And I would stop. This time, now I say, well, maybe not, but I'm still going to go. I'm still going to do this. And I continue with the process. I don't let it disturb me end the process quite as quickly. So it feels like it's an approximation of the goal of not giving into those thoughts that come in and say, this is not, you can't do this, you can't channel, you can't, whatever it is, which would shut it all down. Make sense?
Yes, please understand, every time you're about to do something that increases your energy, the low energies will go into resistance because they're afraid.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So when you identify with the lower energies and call them you don't want them to die, so you're not going to do it.
Right. Yes. And also that's the other thing I've been working with is this I am, nope. The experience is arising or that condition is arising. Like I'm noticing instead of I have anxiety, what I'm starting to realize is anxiety is occurring. Okay. And then I get a little distance from it and I can watch the anxiety arise and I can watch it subside. And I haven't made a big story around I'm anxious. Yeah, it's been very powerful for me.
Yeah, and this is what leads to, again, the starving of the lower energies.
Yeah.
Because they feed off the reactivity. And this is exactly what you will notice. Please understand. Every teacher tells you the ego is an illusion.
Right.
But they're not telling you why. They're not telling you what the ego is exactly. They're just saying ego is an illusion. Because for many people to hear what the ego is very incomprehensible.
Yes.
Dark energies are real.
Yeah.
And they will tell you any story to keep you in a lower energy state.
Right.
This is why when powerful yogis sit, a lot of demonic entities come and try to disturb them.
Yeah.
Because they offer identity. That's their job. That's what demons do. They offer you identity.
Yes.
So basically they're offering something other than God.
Right. They're offering separation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I think you said something along the lines of the ego is essentially, I'm going to say these words, although it sounds fantastical, a demonic container almost.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And yet we incarnate into this form and our karma informs everything and this whole thing, it's like it gets created around us and it's a house of mirrors. That's all we know. And so we believe it's us.
Yes, and then we try to preserve it.
Right.
And when we try to preserve it, we feed what imprisons us. We energize our own prison.
Right.
This is why Buddha said desirelessness leads to liberation.
Yes.
Because as long as you have any desire around the negative container, you will not let go of it.
Right.
If you believe it's you and it has certain needs, it wants sex, it wants attention, it wants admiration, it wants a certain spot in the hierarchy. As long as you believe that is you, you will energize it and you will imprison yourself without knowing it because the negative container feeds off the soul's energy when the soul doesn't know it's the soul.
Right.
So the container will always try to trick you and tell you, I am you, feed me.
Yes.
I am depressed, I am little, I can't do this, I can't channel, I can't heal, I can't...
Right. Right.
Yes?
But we go into look at discernment, not discernment, look at detachment or becoming desireless. How is that different from a whole bunch of stuff I had to unload this year around dissociation, around having no emotion, having no feeling, becoming numbed out?
Very different. Very different. Dissociation is some level of denial.
Yes. I'm good at it. That's for sure.
Who's talking? Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Watch who's talking.
Yes.
Right? I mean, if I'm good at it, I can't change it, right?
Right. Welcome to your container.
Welcome to the negative container.
Oh my gosh.
Now I kind of lost track. There was something important I had on my mind. Can you repeat what you said before that?
Desirelessness. I was talking about and having no emotion, and before that I was
dissociation. Okay.
Yes.
So please understand, dissociation and numbing is some sort of denial. So basically, when someone is traumatized, they try to disconnect from the energy that led to the trauma. So they try to disconnect the memory. So they try to numb themselves so the memory is not accessible.
Yes.
Detachment is something completely different. Detachment is complete awareness of all that is without resistance.
Yeah. Okay. I see that.
So you're being hyper aware of everything that's going on, but you're not in a state of resistance. But when you're in a state of dissociation, you have suppressed a lot of what is going on.
Yes.
So it's a different type. What you mean is a numbness, but not an emptiness.
Yes.
In the emptiness, there's total awareness of what is going on.
Yes.
In the numbness, you have disowned a certain part of reality.
Yes.
Detachment feels peaceful and complete. Dissociation will not feel like that.
No, it does not feel like that.
Yes?
Yeah, it was fascinating, Julian. Just as you were talking with me, and you said trauma, or something along the lines of, I don't remember, but the word trauma came up, and I watched this identification emerge inside of me, like, yes, I'm traumatized. I kind of watched that hook, and I kind of was like, oh, isn't that interesting? It felt good to have that identity. I just sort of watched it arise, and I kind of like, whatever.
Okay, that's the secret. And let's speak about this. And this is very difficult to accept even for very evolved mystics. And I will have disagreements with even mystics that I love very dearly about that. Is that emotions is something that makes us feel high.
Mm-hmm.
Even suffering. It's a drug. Suffering is a drug.
Yeah, I learned that.
Really, why do people watch dramatic TV shows where people cheat, kill, murder? Why do they keep watching this?
It is a drug. Yeah.
Yeah, because they take some sort of identity from it, whatever the narrative is, and they start feeding the negative container. And the negative container is, yeah, you're a victim. Yes.
Yeah.
You're like so empowered in your suffering.
Yes.
It's so self-important.
Yes. Or you're a superhero or whatever it is, that it's an inflation or...
Yeah, or you're like, if I want to be very cheeky, or you're a feminist hero who's bringing down the patriarchy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Whatever you think you need in order to feel powerful in some way. See, even victimhood is about power. Especially victimhood is about power. If you're a victim, I'm not allowed to criticize you.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Hell no.
Yeah. You might be canceled.
Yeah, exactly. If I put the N-word into my mouth or whatever.
Right. Right.
So those who act as if they're victims, they're actually manipulating because they want to get power.
Yes.
Sovereignty is past dominance or victimhood.
Yes, it's
sovereignty.
detached.
There is no hierarchy.
Right. I see that.
Right? So the part of you that wants to feed off drama is the container.
Yes.
And we don't understand this until samadhi. When samadhi is attained, there is no container. You're sitting containerless.
So Julian, help me with that word, because I struggle with all of these words in the spiritual community, samadhi, satori. I have no idea if I've attained any of that.
It all means the same thing.
Oh, I still don't have any idea if I've attained any of that. I have no idea what that means. I've had experiences, I've had state experiences. I can go for periods of time having no thoughts whatsoever, just being, presence. But I have no idea. It feels like it's a checkbox. There's a list that I should have somehow checked the boxes of. And I have no idea what those words mean. I've never been able to figure out what these words mean. They just seem like...
all right. And that's wonderful. Don't try.
Okay. All right.
Because when you're trying, you are engaging the mind.
Right. Okay. I just sort of look at it and go, okay, whatever. I have no idea if I've done that or not. I'm just going to be in me.
All right. So please understand that a seed has the whole potential of tree in it.
Yes.
But it's not thinking, I'm going to be a tree, I'm going to be a tree.
Right.
Someday it's going to be a tree, but it's not like, oh, I'm going to be a tree, I'm going to be... No, it's just naturally going to become a tree because it's not thinking about it.
Okay, so those labels don't matter. I could just drop all those labels.
Labels don't matter. The labels only make sense once you have attained it.
Okay.
So as an idea...
because it can't be corrupted. Okay, I see that.
Because it's spiritual jargon.
Right.
And it doesn't make any sense until you know.
Yes.
So let's say the whole species attains samadhi. They can speak about samadhi because the whole species has attained it.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, if I have had a certain experience and I meet, for example, let's say I go to the Orient, I meet a Sufi on the mountain.
Yeah.
And he had that experience also. We might use different concepts, but we will quickly figure out, oh, you also.
Oh, right.
Because we are relating to something that we have both experienced. So before you have experienced it, it's not relatable.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah? And this is why it's very difficult to accept when you look, for example, at Buddhism. So, for example, when I was in Nepal, I had this on the human level. I had a certain naivete about it. I was like, oh, I'm going to meet a lot of super realized gurus and yogis. But I went there and I started talking to these people. And there was another level of disillusionment. I had experience that they didn't have.
Yeah.
Of course, I know why, but I'm not going to create identity around that.
Right.
There was one very unexpected guru who was the real deal.
Yeah.
But in a very unexpected way. All right? But just one.
Yeah.
And we didn't even talk. Everything that happened was energetically.
Yeah.
But there was no talking, no communicating on the physical level. If someone would have seen us from the outside, they would have thought nothing's happening.
Right.
So it's sometimes better to have the experience first and then get the explanation.
Yeah.
So in a funny way, when I entered Samadhi, after entering Samadhi, I started reading Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was complete deja vu.
Mm-hmm.
Because this whole book is designed to get you into Samadhi.
Okay.
But it was like reverse engineering. It happened first, and
Yeah.
then I could conceptualize it.
Yeah.
But if you conceptualize it first, you block it from happening.
Yeah. So Julian, so I had this experience. I think I told you about it the very first time we ever talked, just because I wanted to speak it, where I went into deep, like bone-crushing grief for weeks and weeks and weeks. I could not stop crying. And then earthquake hit, another earthquake hit, and I go into this sense of deep grief for the earth and for all the people. And out of that, internally, this experience arose where there was incredible spaciousness and there was infinite love and there was an incredible sense of belonging. And everything in my system just... And then for weeks after that, I was just in bliss. Everything synchronistically arose. Everything I needed showed up. Bliss. Is this an experience that's common? Is this a thing? Is this...
Let me ask you this. Was there identity, yes or no?
I don't have any sense of me. It just felt like it was all blissy, heart-open love. There was no sense of... I don't have any memory of me in that 2-3 week period of bliss.
Was there thought?
No, there was just desire. Like open-hearted not grasping.
Not desire. That's not desire. That's something else. Desire is fear-based.
Yeah, and it was then it's not. That's the wrong word. But it was joy. Just, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it.
Well, all right. At that time, it will sound a little bit paradoxical. At that time, did you experience time?
Oh, I don't remember. I just remember it just everything was as it was all the time. It was just incredible presence coupled with incredible joy. That's how it felt. And then it started to fade.
Okay. So in that space, would you say there was no suffering?
Oh yeah, no suffering.
See, this could be samadhi. But when samadhi occurs, you know who you are. Because if there's no identity, there's something left.
Yeah. Creation. I mean, it felt like an outpouring of love and creativity and creation without any kind of a goal. It was just I don't know. It was beautiful. It was amazing.
Well, obviously in that moment, there is a connection with God.
Yes.
That is established.
Yes.
And you're moving from the localized personality into the God mind.
Yes.
And in the God mind, there is no thought, there is no suffering, there is no sense of time, there is no sense of ownership.
Right. Yes.
There is no suffering, there is no identity.
Right.
And this is what is often referred to as the I am presence.
Yes.
You know you are, and this is the undeletable fact.
Yes.
Unremovable fact. You have such a certainty that you are.
Yes.
And nothing can change that. In that moment, that's a realization of God.
Yes.
It's the realization of the I am presence. When all the psychological noise has died down.
Yes.
And only awareness remains.
Yes.
That is samadhi.
Okay. Yes. That makes sense. I know that experience.
All right. And that's the awakening. But what then happens, and that is difficult for many to accept, after the initial awakening, you're not done.
Oh, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Because then,
yeah.
Okay, God basically says, oh, you have realized me, and now I'm going to free you from all your karma.
Yeah.
And then the roller coaster ride starts, because
Yes.
now we're doing the shadow work and we are untying all the old energies so you can truly be free.
And that's when it all started.
Yeah, and this is when there is the impression, oh, I have fallen into ego again.
Yes, that's exactly the story I told myself. It's like, crap. Yeah.
Right? Because the ego tries to get back in there by saying, I have failed.
Yes.
At the state of realization, and I screwed it up.
Yes. Yes.
Which is true, by the way. You were supposed to evolve.
Right.
So there is the awakening. And
Yes.
after the awakening, God begins returning you to him.
Yes.
So you are basically, you get a taste of heaven.
Yes.
You get a taste of nirvana.
Yes.
Yeah, the absence of a subjective self. The absence of desire, the absence of want.
Yes.
The absence of trying to escape, the absence of identity, the absence of thought.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
That is the realization of nirvana.
Yes.
And then our only desire that remains is I want to stay there.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And then the divine says, okay, you want to stay there. Now you get to clear all your old karma out.
Yes.
By grace.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Now we're
I
going to
see this.
disentangle you from all your regrets, all your past life traumas, all your guilts. We can be truly returned to God.
Yes. Yeah, I know this experience.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And this is what's going on right now.
Yes. It's so interesting. It just you as you speak, I recall the first what felt like awakening. It felt like awakening to me. What happened, and I was just driving my car, and I was in a blissy state, and suddenly my vision changed, and I could see. The only word for it is God. It was like this clear substance that connected all of us, but it was clear, so I couldn't see it, but I could see it, and everything was brilliantly detailed, vividly. I could see so vividly, and then my ego goes, "Oh, I want this," and it faded back, and then I went into a hell relationship, which was like, wake up, look at your shadow, wake up, and I spent 7 years in that.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I see it.
Let me ask you, do these 7 years exist? Are they in the room right now?
No, I don't feel attached to the idea.
So don't create them. Why create them?
Yeah, I don't have any feeling when I said those words. It didn't like go, It's just like, oh, that was funny.
But maybe that's exactly the catalyst that you needed at the time.
Now that's interesting about time. Because one thing I've always felt is very strange. I do feel as if all the time I've spent on this planet, it doesn't have any particular meaning to me. When something happens that feels like it's a completion, I don't feel any sense of, oh, that took so long. It just feels like no time at all passed. Yeah, so time is interesting. I have never thought about time before. Not like really thought about it. I have things to contemplate about time now.
But it creates a lot of mental acrobatics when you try.
Yeah. Yeah, so let that go.
Time is such a difficult thing to get a grip of.
Yeah.
What I'd rather do is go into the no time space first.
Yeah.
And that's presence.
Just presence. Yeah, just be. Yeah.
Yeah, you are outside of time because, again, within Samadhi, there's the realization of I am, and nothing can change I am.
Right.
The universe can completely disappear. There will still be I am.
Yes.
If there's always I am cannot be within time because time was created after I am was there.
Yeah.
So I am is never affected. So everything that happens after is the dream of time, is the illusion of time.
Yes.
And the part of you that is experiencing time is your body.
Yes. Yes, I feel that and see it.
Yeah, that's why in spirit things can happen very fast, but before they arrive in the body, it sometimes takes a while.
Yeah, I remember a psychic friend of mine saying the slowest dimension to change is the physical dimension.
That is correct.
Yeah.
I heard the same thing all the time from the Ascended Masters. They said it all the time.
Yeah.
Like you make a change on an energy level. For example, your energy body can increase very fast, but at the same time, your physical body needs to catch up to that energy.
Yes.
And since it's the slowest form of energy, there's a delay between what you have realized and the actualization of it. Like when it comes to yogic ability, for example, this takes sometimes years to develop because the body needs to be modified. It needs to be transformed.
Yes.
And this is where the grind is. That's the challenging part. That you might understand something, but before it translates into ability,
yes,
because there is the physical dimension to it, and the body needs to be upgraded, so to speak, in order to be exactly that, an embodiment of that understanding. It takes a while, and this is where your ego can come in and try to create suffering.
Yes.
Oh, why can't I channel yet? Why can't I heal yet? Why can't
right.
I...
Why is my body broken? I'm broken, whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you start energizing the container again, and you go into resistance to grace.
Yes.
So the job is very simple. Return to presence.
Yes.
Time, return to presence, and allow grace.
Yes.
And in such a way, you will have episodes of ego activity, you will have episodes of grace.
Yeah.
Just every time you can consciously choose grace, choose grace.
Yes.
You're going through a transition. When you're going through a transition, ego activity will happen because the body will be disturbed.
Yes.
And when the body is disturbed, dark energy will try to get a foothold.
Yes.
Because the dark energy is like, oh, she's confused. Let us try to get in there.
Yeah.
Right? Now is our time. She's occupied. She's not going to pay attention. Let's sneak some thoughts in.
Yes.
Let's get a hook in her energy body.
Yes.
So the grind is the vigilance that is needed.
Mm-hmm.
Despite being tired, staying aware.
Yes.
Despite being in pain, staying aware.
Yes.
And not generating ego. And it's very challenging.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's all right. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's the journey.
And it's simple, but it's not easy.
No.
And that's exactly what the ego will resent. Because it's simple, it can't do anything. So the ego will feel even more helpless.
Yeah.
The ego just feels it's a waiting game. So it's an exercise in patience, you see?
Yes.
And there will be moments where there is identification and suffering.
Yes.
That is what.
Oh no! I know. I'll catch myself like, oh, look at you! You've been in the dream for like the past 30 minutes. Yeah.
And that's all right.
Yeah.
Don't you realize how amazing that is? For you, it is 30 minutes. For other people, it's a year.
Yeah.
Like, they have a job they don't like, they're married to someone they don't love, and then they go on a holiday after a year of grind at the beach, and they suddenly have a moment of realization for 10 seconds, and then they go back to their egos.
Yeah. It almost makes me want, I feel so much grief, compassion showing up as I think about that.
So, enjoy that it's only 30 minutes.
Yeah, and sometimes much longer, for sure. But yeah.
And then the compassion and the grief that is showing up, it's important to see where does it come from. So again, even mystics that I very love and I deeply respect for their wisdom, when they start suffering with other people,
yeah,
they're not understanding what they're doing.
Right, they're bringing their vibration down. Mm-hmm.
And they will call it compassion, but it's not. It's some sort of self-centered narcissism.
Mm.
You do not need to suffer with others in order to be compassionate.
Yeah.
That's an ego lie. You can be in a state of joy and bliss without interruption.
Yes.
Be of great service. And you will not be compassionless robot. Quite the opposite. In the moment of no identity, you will love without condition, without fear.
Yes.
And you will see what is possible at that moment. You will see what is not possible at that moment.
And the right.
So your acts will be efficient.
Yes.
So your mind tries to create the idea that there is a conflict between being and action. But it's not. What about action from being?
Yes.
And it naturally arises.
Yes. There's like it's like a knowing that shows up and translates into action. Yeah?
Yes, but it's not something that you need to think about.
Right. It can't be manufactured.
By analysis.
Yeah.
And this is what we're trying to achieve, that God can act through the body. And
yes.
God can only act through the body when identity has been surrendered.
Yes.
And identity is only surrendered when we drop desire.
Yes.
As long as you have desire, there will be some sort of selfishness in there.
Right, a manipulation of some sort.
You are, for example, like I'm helping you, so you pay me.
Right. Or I'm helping you, so you do it this way. Behave in this way.
Right, so I feel right in my practice because everybody's practicing like I do.
Yeah.
It makes me feel righteous.
Yeah.
So being identityless is the key. You will still be there, but you won't put a label on it.
Yes.
I really enjoyed this one sentence that Eckhart Tolle used to say, because it's so spot on. He said, I just don't have opinions about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Opinions about yourself is the ego structure. When there's no opinions, you are naturally you.
Yes.
So we are trying to become natural again, but the paradox is we can't try it. Because when we try it, it becomes some sort of artificial emulation of something that we think is Buddhahood.
Yes.
It's going to be pretty awkward. So to become natural, we need to surrender what is not natural.
Yes.
Not natural is fear.
Yes. And grasping and desire and force. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Every time force enters your action, you're not acting from God. You're acting from something lower.
Yes.
So please understand that in my own practice, I'm not constantly experiencing positive thoughts or amazement.
Right.
I experience often a lot of concern because of a sense of responsibility, but who is sensing that? Mm-hmm. Mm. So when I have client sessions, for example, and something else is sneaking into that client session from something that happened before, mm-hmm. my practice is to not let it act through me.
Yes. So you don't become the conduit of it.
Yes. Mm. But that requires to be rooted in awareness.
Yes. Incredible
because
presence.
Because many intelligences want to be channeled through the human body.
Mm-hmm.
And not all of them are benevolent. You need to understand this.
Yes.
This is why we need to be rooted in awareness, because only then we can discern.
Yes.
Does it feel compulsive right now, or does it feel free and joyful?
Yes.
If it's compulsive, you know it's not going to be beneficial, neither for you nor for anybody involved.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God, yes. I can reflect back on so many experiences where that was coming through, this subtle compulsion. And you're right, the outcome is inherently corrupt.
Always.
Yeah.
And this is what in Buddhism is meant by generating karma. Unconscious action will always lead to karma.
Yes.
Yes, because it's incomplete action. Only when you are in a state of surrender and you're acting from no identity, understand the space of no identity is the space where everything is known and everything is seen.
Yes.
So the action will be in complete harmony with all that is because it comes from all that is. But once you enter an ego perspective, it comes from a limited perspective.
Yes.
So it will be selective.
Yes. I can literally see this,
right?
And feel it. Mm-hmm.
So it cannot consider all of creation.
Right.
It's incapable of considering all of creation.
Because it's been narrowed down and constrained and boxed, contained.
Yes. Mm. So we're trying to let totality act through us by letting go of the locality.
Yes.
And the more you do it, the more your body will change.
Yes.
And the conditions will begin to be removed by grace.
And can you talk? Grace has been a confusing thing for me. The word grace. I have a lot of concepts around grace tied up in worthiness, right? Am I worthy of grace? Tied up in earning it. If I produce something, I'm worthy of grace.
If you have to be worthy or unworthy of grace, then it's not grace.
Right. Right.
Dictate.
But what?
But a dictator, that's what it is then, a dictator.
Right. And that's an internalized construct. That's an ego construct right there that I've energized.
So what did Master Yeshua say in A Course of Love? You are all chosen.
So the worthiness game doesn't even apply.
No, it doesn't. The worthiness game is the ego game.
Yes.
That's the lies. That's the delusion. That's the demonic energy that tell you you need to earn it.
Yes.
Puts a condition on it so you get terrified.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, if I want to make a joke, and I want to approach this in a very East Asian way, imagine a grumpy monk on a mountain who's living in a cave.
Yeah.
Someone says, I want to reach enlightenment. I want to reach eternal peace. And the monk says, all right, do you see these 5 mountains in the distance? Climb every one of them. You'll find peace. The guy will walk over and he was like, okay, I'm going to climb those mountains. Mm-hmm. While the monk is chuckling in the distance, all right?
Yeah.
So he's climbing the mountain and it sucks.
Yeah.
The second mountain sucks even more.
Yes.
The third mountain is horrible. Mm-hmm. And on the 4th, he is contemplating jumping off a cliff. And then he asks himself, why am I doing all this nonsense?
Yeah.
And that's the moment of realization.
Yes.
Because nothing is required.
This is bringing back an experience I had in the fall where I did this shamanic diet and I was like, lots of meditation and lots of ingesting, not psychoactive plants, but whatever, doing this process. And at the end, I did a psilocybin journey, and it was a really big one. It was really hard. And as I came out of it, it was so hard. And after when I came out of it, I had that experience of the 5th mountain. It's just like, just stop. Just stop. It's as if my spiritual ego got crushed like a tin can on the ground. It feels like, the story you just told me feels like that's sort of what happened to me. And that's when I started the whole process of surrender. Just letting go. Just stop. Trying to control it. Trying to make it happen. Trying to fix it. Trying to. Anything trying to. I don't know. It felt like an ego death.
See, there you go. And your understanding of grace, it will change.
Yeah.
In my initial awakening, God to me was nothing personal. Yeah, it was just I am.
Yeah.
But then later down the road, other things started happening. So God became more personalized through the ascended masters, through angelic beings, through deities, who I started perceiving. And they started talking to me.
Yeah.
Like good old friends, like families, like people I would have a cup of coffee with.
Yeah.
And then the next unworthiness blockage will arise. Why are they hanging out with me all the time? What have I done?
Yeah.
And one of my dear friends in spirit, like one time I was sitting on a bench, and suddenly I saw his holographic projection, and he's basically emulating as if he's sitting on the bench next to me, because they can do this in spirit. They can like send a holographic image of themselves. Mm-hmm. And they basically do this because it offers you an interface that from your human psychology you can relate to without being disturbed.
Yes.
And he's sitting next to me on the bench, and I'm asking him, like, are you coming for a specific reason? Is there something that you want to tell me? He says, no, can I not just spend time with you? Do I have to have a reason?
Yeah. Yeah. The unworthiness game.
Can't you imagine that? Okay, this is going to get funny. that they are very hyped when you can perceive them.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine that, actually.
Because how many do that? So once you can perceive them, there are going to be so many that knock on your door because they enjoy to co-create with you.
Yes.
And to spend time with you and to be able to receive their love while you're having a body.
Yes.
Because not many can consciously do that.
Yeah.
So to them, it's a wonderful opportunity as well. They're very excited when that happens.
Yes.
So our perception is very off here. We're like, oh, you're gracing me with your presence.
Right.
But they're
like, stop.
If they could,
yeah.
if they could, they would high five you.
Yeah. I can feel this. I can feel a lot of things unlocking inside of me as I embody this. Yeah.
Some of them have a humor you can't imagine. Recently, a dear friend of mine in spirit made the joke. It's a Buddhism joke. I don't know if you get it, but you'll get it, I guess. Mm. He said, God is having a hard time because he's a single parent.
Oh, yeah, you told me this before. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most people won't get the joke.
Mm-hmm.
Or there was one ascended master I was squabbling with a bit. Then he said, Julian, I'm going to leave now. And I'm like, why are you leaving? And he said, otherwise you're going to tighten your sphincter. Can you imagine God being people? But people who are fully aware that they're God? There's just nothing artificial about it.
Yeah.
And most likely you will not meet those beings in a body. These are very few beings who still have a body who have attained this.
Yeah.
And it's exactly our idea of unworthiness why we block grace out.
Yes.
Yeah, the idea of worthiness is the opposite of grace.
Yes.
You're basically telling the ascended masters, give me 5 more mountains, otherwise I can't accept you.
That's right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand the psychology of it?
Yes. Yes.
So grace means I stop torturing myself and let it happen for me.
Yes. Allowing. With joy.
Yeah, it's joyful, yeah, often.
Yeah. Mm.
And down the line, magical things can happen. But if you focus on those things, you're getting off track.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So your only job is to remove compulsion from your life.
Yes. I can feel that. That feels like what I've been working on. Those words seem so foreign.
Yeah, because who is the one who's working on something?
Yeah, the ego.
Well, not grace.
No. No. I mean, that's exactly it. As soon as that language shows up, I can feel the collapse into identity. I'm working on it. I'm trying. I'm doing all of that. Efforting. Yeah. Language is tricky.
Yes, exactly. And that's why I say things a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
In order to get people out of the common logic.
Yeah.
One time I spoke to a philosopher. And he said, Julian, can't you sometimes use common sense? And I looked at him, common sense is madness.
Yeah.
And he started laughing because he got it immediately. So effort simply means that you're saying, I want to stay human longer.
Yes.
I have desire.
Yes.
I need to like prove to myself that I'm worthy, so I need more time, so I need more incarnations, so I need more suffering, so I need... Why?
Yeah.
What for? See, that's the point. You reach the point of realization when you realize that you never reach that point.
Yes.
Yeah, this is what I meant. Like on the fourth mountain, you're like, it sucks, I want to jump off the cliff.
Yeah.
And this is when you realize effortlessness, because now you stop trying.
Yes.
You just get off the mountain, sit down in a nice valley, have a cup of tea, and suddenly the inspiration is coming in.
Yes. Yeah, I noticed that in meditation. Meditation's become so much easier for me because it used to be the thing I had to do. It was the effort, it was the work, it was the attainment, it was, I don't know, whatever. And I've been sitting down and just allowing, just sitting and allowing. And whatever happens, whatever practice arises in me, feels like a joyful thing that I want to do, and I do the practice. And I hold on to the practice as long as it feels right to hold on to the practice. And it's become this much more flow experience. And it's been so helpful. It's been so helpful.
Right. And then you then you start sensing, oh, my practice isn't draining me anymore.
Right. Right. I don't look at my meditation cushion with aversion anymore. In fact, I look at it with neutrality, come to think of it. It just feels neutral. Yeah.
Well, at some point, it is just something that is so part of your routine that you don't question it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you don't question brushing your teeth or
right.
taking a shower. These are things that are so part of our routine that we we don't doubt them anymore.
Yep.
Sometimes that's an issue when we don't doubt certain things.
Yeah.
But in this case, I'm not trying to say too much, so I got to feel into if it serves you or not.
Okay.
There is such a thing as discipline. It exists. But it very quickly seems to become a paradox because it is the discipline to stay in grace.
Yes.
So you're constantly reminding yourself to stay in grace.
Yes.
So to eat up, to let go of tension, to let go of thought, to let go of desire. You constantly go back to presence, And in a way, it's a discipline.
Yes.
It's an inner strength. But it comes from the soul. It's not
compulsion.
Something that the person does.
Yes. It's a choice. It's an infinite choice in the moment.
If I would use a word, I would say there is a remote control.
Mm-hmm.
And the human needs to let go of local control so remote control can happen.
Yes.
It's why when people say, oh, I need to have a meditation schedule, otherwise I'm not disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
This is not how it works for me. I have a very irregular day and night rhythm.
Yes.
But I get up and something in me wants to sit. So I sit.
Yeah.
I don't have to force myself to sit. When I get up, I sit. It doesn't matter when I get up, but when I get up, I sit.
Yeah.
So this is basically sensing the inner impulse, because once you are aware, you don't need that structure because you're naturally going to do it.
Yes.
You need the structure as long as you're unaware. Once you are aware,
yes,
you will meditate anywhere, anytime.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not dependent on the structure or on the schedule.
Yes.
The same way someone who actually works out, for example, they don't need to I got to get up at this time. They're just going to do it.
Yes.
So once you reach the I'm just going to do it stage,
yeah,
it will happen by itself more and more and more.
Yes. I have had that experience.
So grace is yours. The only thing that you need to do is not to energize what tries to pull you out of grace. And then let grace remove what is trying to keep your energy low.
Yes.
And of course, if you would do a violet flame exercise, no wonder that the voices come up.
Yeah.
Just say like, oh, she's going to depolarize us. No, throw a Hail Mary attempt in there, distract her somehow.
Yeah.
So when you have that sense of humor, that the ease is also there.
Yeah. Yes. I can see
because
that.
you realize it's play.
Yep.
Yeah? When you become serious, you have left grace.
Yeah. It's like an aspect of grace is amusement.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, this is why it's very difficult for people to perceive ascended masters. Because they are a goofy, hilarious bunch. This is why in the beginning we said perfection is not a helpful concept.
Yeah.
Because the one who strives for perfection is the one who believes that they're flawed.
Yes.
And that's the ego structure.
Yes.
That believes in flaws and mistakes and screw-ups. And so, since the Ascended Masters are a very joyful bunch, they're very different in character. Some are more hilarious than others. They are tremendously relatable. And we can't fathom that if we don't have a good relationship with ourselves.
Yes.
Then we block them out. Because them and ourselves, there's not a big difference. So as long as you want to make something holy instead of realizing your holiness, you're pretty off track. You're probably on mountain 50.
Mm-hmm.
Let me find my holiness up this mountain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this totally resonates. I'm noticing my mind is getting full.
Full or tired?
Tired. I hardly got any sleep last night, and I got up at 5 a.m. this morning.
All right.
Yeah.
But I assume what you needed to hear was said.
Oh, absolutely. It's incredible. It was what I needed to hear. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I recorded this. I don't know if it would be helpful if you'd like to share it with anybody, but last time you asked on Satsang if we could record, and I would be totally happy if you want this to be shared. Would you like me to share this recording with you?
Yeah, because now I didn't record it.
Okay, I'll share it with you, and you can see if it would serve anybody else.
All right, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't speak about anything too private. I would make a cut then here, like if I edited, I would.
Yeah, at the very beginning, at the very end, for sure. Yep.
Yes. Yeah, then that's wonderful. If you want to share this with the people, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
Wonderful.
If you feel you have received enough stimulation and you want to relax now, then I'd say if you don't have any other question, we can wrap it up. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't have any more questions. I think at this point I need to integrate and sleep, and yeah. Wonderful.
But I think I have one last thing for you.
Yes.
You asked me one time how much to rely on higher beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
This ties into the grace question.
It does.
I would say there can never be enough grace.
I could feel the joy in that statement.
Yeah, what I mean by that is I don't feel awkward asking questions every day.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is if someone could come to you in your meditation and you would perceive them and they would talk to you every day and answer all of your questions, wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah, it would be amazing.
Right. So feel free to rely on grace.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you don't take action in the world. You still have a body.
Yes.
But you have played the solitary warrior for long enough. For you, the opposite exercise is required.
Yes.
For you, more grace can be present in your life, more counsel, more direct guidance from higher beings can be in your life.
Yes.
Depends how a being's tendency is. If a being's tendency is to constantly negate responsibility, they would need a different practice.
Yes.
Yeah, but a being who has a tendency of creating too much responsibility would benefit greatly from more grace in life.
Yes.
Makes sense to you?
It does. It makes complete sense.
All right. Then
Wonderful.
I'd say we wrap it up here, yeah?
Yes. Wonderful. Lovely. Julian, thank you so much. So grateful.
Welcome, yeah? Have a beautiful weekend.
You too. Okay. See you.
Bye.
Bye.